What if I told you that you already have everything you need to assemble one of the best filament dryers available? Don't believe me? Stick around and I'll show you. I'll also prove how it's as good, if not better, than most of the commercially available products. You are not going to want to miss this one. Testing, 1, 2. So firstly, yes, I am ill, and no, it's not that. I hope you can forgive my terrible sounding voice, but I know this video is going to help someone, so here I am. So we all know that wet filament's bad, right? Right? Well, if you didn't, wet filament's bad. Moisture makes the filament brittle and gives you poor printing results, guaranteed. Ever since I realised how many of my printing issues were caused by wet filament, I've been on a bit of a mission to dry my filament and then keep it as dry as possible. I built a super efficient dry box and even turbocharged one of the most popular filament dryers out there to try and make it more efficient. However, today I came up with something that's so simple and effective, it may just upset some of these filament dryer manufacturers. So how did I come up with the design? Well, all you actually need to do to dry filament is to warm the filament up and warm up the air around it. Warm air can hold more moisture than the cold air, so moisture gets drawn out of the filament. All the little water molecules inside your filament and the air bounce around a lot more when they're warm and are more likely to fly off out into the air. This process is called evaporation, and it's the same way that puddles dry. If we then get this warm, moist air away from the filament and bring in cool, dry air, then we can repeat the process and keep the filament drying. Most of the filament dryers that you buy do this in one way or another. Some of them aren't actually too bothered about the science and just simply warm the filament and the air up and leave the rest up to God. That's why my turbo mod for the Sunlu S1 works so well. It whisks away all that damp air and pulls in drier air. Okay, well done for sitting through all the boring bit. So how have you got something that will already do this? All you need to get this whole process working is a heat source, some way of trapping some warm air, and then a way of moving that air on. All this is the cardboard box that your filament reels come in. Cut the lid off and flip it over onto your printer's heat bed. But what about airflow? Well, we're now going to take advantage of another process called convection. When we heat air, it becomes less dense. Less dense air is lighter than more dense colder air, and so the warm air rises above cold air. If we let some of that warm air out the top, then cooler air will naturally be drawn in at the bottom. Unless you've used some kind of precision cutting tool to remove your lid, then the gaps around the bottom of the box are going to be fine for the intake air. So all we need to do is let some of the warm air out the top. This can be achieved by just punching some holes in the middle. About 9 5mm holes seems to be about right from testing. So if you already have a printer with a heated bed and you already have a box that your filament came in, you have all you need to make this filament dryer. So the important bit, how well does it work? I like to test filament dryers by seeing how much and how quickly they can remove moisture from a piece of foam. To give you an idea of what we're aiming at, these are some of the results represented as grams per hour for some of the other drying methods that I've tested. For this one, I set the bed at 70 degrees C and left it for about 5 hours. After 5 hours, the foam is 12.5 grams lighter. That means that this very simple filament dryer can remove 2.5 grams per hour. That smashes the $40 Sunlu S1 and only gets beaten by the turbo mod, which uses 3D printed parts. That smashes the $40 Sunlu S1, which has 3D printed parts and a fan. Now obviously there are some downsides to drying your filament like this. You can't print at the same time as drying your filament like you can with some of the other dryer boxes. And if you didn't know, cardboard is flammable, so at least have a smoke alarm next to your printer. I'd advise doing this anyway because filament's flammable. But for free, it's got to be worth a test at the very least. Click this video if you want to see more about drying filament and keeping it dry, and click here if you want to see another video you might enjoy. Thanks for watching. I'm going back to bed.